The night was quiet, the kind of silence that made small towns feel endless. Ethan drove home with one hand on the wheel and soft music playing on the radio. He had just finished a long shift at the repair shop, his hands still smelling of oil and metal. The road was empty, except for the moonlight spilling through the trees. He yawned, thinking only about his warm bed, when suddenly the sky tore open with a blinding light. His car shook violently, the headlights flickered, and the engine coughed before dying completely. He slammed the brakes and stared at the forest ahead where something had crashed. The air smelled like burned wires and ozone, and a strange humming filled the air. Was that a plane? He whispered, stepping out of the car, but no plane made a sound like that. It was deeper, almost alive. The trees in the distance glowed faintly blue. Curiosity pulled him forward. He grabbed his flashlight and walked toward the forest, the leaves crunching under his boots. Every step felt heavier, as if the air itself didn't want him there. When he reached the clearing, he froze. In front of him was a metallic pod. Half buried in the ground, it was shaped like a tear, glowing with faint silver light. Steam hissed from the cracks, and strange symbols pulsed along its side. Ethan's mouth went dry. "What the hell is this?" he muttered. Then from inside came a sound, a soft cry. He stepped closer, his flashlight shaking. "Hello? Is someone in there?" He called out. He didn't expect an answer, but then a voice, soft, trembling, answered, "Help!" "Please." Ethan stumbled back. The door of the pod opened slowly with a hiss, and light poured out. Inside was a girl, maybe 19 or 20. Her skin was pale, almost glowing, and her eyes were bright silver. Her hair shimmered like threads of light. She looked weak, her breathing shallow, and a strange blue fluid ran from a wound on her arm. "Oh my God!" Ethan gasped, rushing forward. He knelt beside her, afraid to touch her. "Hey, it's okay, you're safe. I'll get help." But when she looked at him, her pupils expanded like stars. She grabbed his wrist suddenly, and a jolt of energy ran through his body. His flashlight exploded, sparks flying, and for a second he saw strange visions, stars, galaxies, machines floating in darkness. His mind screamed, and then it all went black for a heartbeat. When he opened his eyes again, the girl had collapsed, whispering a single word, "They're coming." Ethan's heart pounded. He looked around, the forest silent again. The pod's light was fading, and in the distance he heard something. Distant thunder. No, engines. Helicopters. No, the sound was deeper, sharper. He didn't have time to think. He lifted the girl into his arms, surprised at how light she was, and carried her to his truck. "Hang in there," he said breathlessly. "I'm getting you out of here." He laid her in the back seat and started the engine, but the dashboard flickered strangely. The truck roared to life, even though the key wasn't fully turned. The lights on the road pulsed as he drove. His heart raced. What had he touched? Who was she? Every few seconds he glanced in the mirror at her. Her eyes opened halfway, glowing faintly in the dark. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "They will find you now." "Who will find me?" he asked, glancing back. "What are you talking about?" But she didn't answer, her breathing shallow again. He drove faster, taking the back roads toward his home. A low rumble echoed across the sky. He looked up and froze. 3 black triangular crafts moved silently through the clouds. No sound of engines, no blinking lights. They weren't helicopters. They weren't planes. "No way," he whispered. "That's impossible." He turned off his headlights and parked behind an old barn, hiding the truck under the trees. The girl stirred again, her voice weak. "Don't let them see the light. They can trace it." Ethan swallowed hard. Okay, no lights," he said, switching off everything. He helped her out and led her inside his small garage. She was shaking, whispering words he didn't understand. Her skin glowed faintly blue, as if her veins carried light instead of blood. Inside, he laid her on a workbench and grabbed a blanket. "What happened to you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Are you hurt?" "Should I call someone?" She shook her head violently. "No call," she said, struggling to form the words. "No human help. They come for me." "Who's coming?" He pressed. Those things in the sky?" She nodded, tears welling in her silver eyes. "Hunters not from here. They find energy." Like me? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, pacing. You're saying aliens. Real aliens? She didn't answer, but looked at him with fear that felt too real to doubt. He sat down beside her, trying to think, why are they after you? He asked, what do they want? She hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. I escaped with something they need, something that can end everything. Her hand trembled as she touched her chest. Now they track me through energy, but you... She looked up at him, eyes wide with sorrow. You touched me. Now they track you too. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at his hands, remembering the shock, the symbols, the stars that flashed in his mind. What did you do to me? He demanded. She flinched, whispering, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... Link. Her voice faded again, and she fell unconscious. He stared at her, at the glowing veins under her skin. The sound outside grew louder, machines hovering, engines humming in the night sky. He peeked through the garage window. 3 lights moved slowly across the horizon, scanning the ground. His heart hammered in his chest. He turned off every light, even his phone, and stood frozen in the dark, watching as one beam of blue light swept past the barn. For a moment it stopped right on his house. He held his breath, the air thick and humming with unseen energy. Then as suddenly as it came, the beam moved on, disappearing into the clouds. Ethan sank to the floor, gasping. He looked at the girl again, her breathing steady but strange. Her skin glowed faintly against the shadows. He whispered, what did I just bring into my life? Outside, the night went quiet again, but not peaceful. The forest was holding its breath. Somewhere above, unseen eyes searched the earth, and Ethan realized this was no ordinary night. He hadn't just found a lost girl. He had found something not of this world, and whatever she had run from, it was still coming, and now it was coming for him too. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the wooden floor made him jump. The strange girl lay motionless on the couch, her silver eyes closed, faint blue light still pulsing under her skin. He sat nearby, holding a mug of coffee gone cold. His mind was a storm of questions. Who was she? What was that light in the sky? And most of all, what did she mean by their coming? The air around the house felt heavy, as if the night itself was watching him. At dawn, the silence broke with a distant rumble. Ethan rushed to the window. A convoy of black vehicles moved slowly down the dirt road leading into town. They had no logos, no license plates, just tinted windows and antennas on top. His heart raced. No way! They found us already, he whispered. He turned to the girl. Hey, wake up! We have to go. But she didn't move. Her breathing was steady, too calm. He knelt beside her and shook her shoulder gently. Lyra, please get up. Her eyes opened suddenly, glowing faintly. Don't. Call them, she said weakly. No police, no army. They are not real humans. Ethan froze. What do you mean, not real? I just saw them. They're soldiers. She sat up slowly, wincing. No, they wear skins. They hide in your kind's bodies. They hunt energy signatures. And now you have mine. Her words sent a chill down his spine. He looked at his hands again. The same hands that had touched her glowing skin. So, they can find me too? She nodded. Through the link, yes. We must move. He helped her stand. She was weak but determined. I can't just drive through them, Ethan said. They'll see us. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, whispering something in a strange language. Suddenly the lights flickered, and the air in the room vibrated softly. What did you just do? He asked, stepping back. She opened her eyes. I changed our energy field for a short time. They cannot sense us if we stay quiet. A loud knock shattered the silence. Ethan's heart jumped. Someone banged on the front door. Sir, a deep voice called. We're investigating last night's meteor crash. Have you seen or heard anything unusual? Ethan looked at Lyra. She shook her head slowly. Don't speak the truth, she mouthed. He walked to the door and opened it slightly. 2 men stood outside, dressed in black armor with shiny helmets under their arms. Their faces were calm, but too perfect. Not a single hair out of place, not a single blink for too long. Ethan forced a smile. Meteor crash? Yeah, I saw the light, crazy stuff, but nothing landed near here. The taller man tilted his head slightly. Are you sure? Our sensors detected energy spikes in this area. His voice was too smooth. Too even, Ethan swallowed. Maybe your machines are wrong, he said. Trying to sound casual, the other man's eyes shifted slightly. Scanning Ethan from head to toe, Ethan felt his skin crawl. It felt like the man could see through him. After a tense pause, the first man nodded. If you notice anything, report it immediately. They turned and walked away slowly, their boots making no sound on the gravel. Ethan shut the door fast and locked it. He leaned against it, breathing hard. That was close, he whispered. Lyra stood near the window, watching the men leave. They know, she said quietly. They will return when they confirm the signal. Ethan rubbed his face. We can't stay here, she nodded. We go now. They packed quickly. Ethan grabbed some clothes, food, and his old toolbox. Lyra moved slowly, but kept scanning the air, as if feeling invisible waves. Where do we go? He asked. She looked toward the forest, away from machines. They use them to track, Ethan nodded. There's an old cabin in the mountains, no signal, no power lines. She looked at him with relief. Yes, that will help. They left the house just before sunrise. Ethan's truck roared softly as it rolled onto the dirt road. The horizon glowed orange, but the beauty of it couldn't calm his nerves. He kept checking the mirror, expecting those black vehicles to appear again. Lyra sat quietly, her eyes focused on the sky. You said they wear human skins, he said finally. How do they do that? She turned toward him. They use bioshells, stolen forms. They can look like anyone, even you. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. That's comforting, he muttered, trying to joke, but his voice was shaking. They drove in silence for a while, until Lyra whispered, You help me without knowing who I am. Why? Ethan sighed. You looked scared and hurt. Didn't seem right to leave you there? She smiled faintly, the glow in her eyes softening. Where I come from, kindness like that is rare. They reached the base of the mountain road just as the sky turned grey. Ethan slowed down. We'll take the old trail from here. No cameras, no traffic. But before he could turn, a dark shadow passed over them. He looked up. 3 black drones hovered silently above the treetops, their red sensors blinking. Damn it, they found us, he shouted. Lyra grabbed his arm. Drive! The truck bounced over rocks and dirt as he sped into the forest. Branches slapped the windshield. The drones followed, their lights flashing. Ethan's heart pounded. I thought you said they couldn't sense us. I said for a short time. She shouted. The shield is gone! Bullets of blue light fired from the drones, melting holes into the trees. Ethan swerved wildly. Hang on! He pressed the accelerator, and the truck shot forward. Lyra leaned out the window, her eyes blazing silver. She raised her hand, and the nearest drone exploded in a burst of light. Ethan stared. How did you do that? She winced, clutching her arm. I use what is left of my power. But it burns. Another drone fired. Grazing the back of the truck, sparks flew. We're not going to make it, Ethan muttered. Then suddenly, the mountain road curved sharply. He turned hard, and the truck skidded behind a large boulder. The remaining drones shot past. Losing track for a second, Ethan turned off the engine, both of them breathing hard. Are you okay? He asked. She nodded weakly. Yes, but they will return. He looked at her glowing veins and said, Then we need to make sure they don't. She stared at him, confused. What do you mean? Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm done running if they want us. They'll have to fight for it. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. You are more like my people than you think, she whispered. Ethan stared at the sky where the drones had vanished. The air smelled of smoke and fear, but deep down, something inside him had changed. The fear was still there, but now it burned with something else, resolve. He didn't know how far this would go or what those things really were. But one thing was certain. Helping that girl had changed everything. And there was no going back. Ethan and Lyra hid deep in the forest, the truck covered with branches and leaves. The morning light filtered through the trees, soft and cold. Smoke from the drone attack still lingered in the air. Lyra sat on a fallen log, her hands trembling as she tried to control her breathing. The glow under her skin was fading. Ethan knelt beside her, checking the wound on her arm. "You're burning up," he said, worry in his voice. She shook her head. "It is not sickness. It's the energy leaking out. I used too much of it." Ethan wrapped a bandage around her arm anyway. "You need rest," he said. "We'll stay here for a few hours." "No signals, no noise." She nodded weakly. "They will not stop, Ethan. They will track until one of us dies." He looked at her sharply. "Not happening. We're getting out of this." He tried to sound confident, but his stomach twisted as the sun rose higher. The forest seemed too quiet, no birds, no insects. Only the sound of wind moving through the leaves. Ethan kept scanning the tree line. Feeling watched, his thoughts raced. Who were these hunters? How many of them were on Earth? And why was Lyra so important? When she finally spoke again, her voice was soft. "My world was dying, Ethan. We found a way to save it, but they wanted to use it for control." He turned toward her. "Who's they?" She looked up, eyes reflecting the sunlight like silver glass. "The Dominion, an empire that eats stars. They drain life from worlds and call it progress." Ethan frowned. "And you stole something from them, didn't you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "The core, a living crystal that can power or destroy anything it touches. I hid it inside me to keep it safe." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Pacing, "So that's why they want you, and because I touched you, they can trace me too." She looked at him with guilt. "Yes, but I can remove the link, only if we find a quiet place with enough energy. Maybe your cabin can help." He stopped pacing. "Then we go there. I'll protect you till we get there." She smiled faintly. "You are strange, Ethan. You risk your life for someone you don't know." He shrugged. "Guess I just like fixing broken things." For the first time, she laughed softly, the sound light and human. It gave him a small spark of hope. They walked for hours through the forest until they reached an old dirt road that led into the mountains. The path was rough, and the air grew colder. The further they went, the less connection there was to the outside world. No signals, no sounds of engines, no power lines. It felt like stepping out of Earth's map. But as they approached the narrow bridge crossing a river, Ethan froze. A black SUV stood in the middle of the road. "Doors open." "Oh no," he whispered. Lyra grabbed his arm. "They are here." Two figures stepped out. Their movements too smooth, too exact. Their faces looked human, but their eyes glowed faintly amber. One of them smiled. "Ethan Cole," he said calmly. "You've been difficult to track." Ethan's heart pounded. "How do you know my name?" The figure tilted his head. "We know everything about you now. The link gives us access." "You should not have touched her." Ethan glanced at Lyra. Her jaw clenched. "Leave him out of this," she said. "I am the one you want." The man laughed softly. "You think we only want the core? You have already shared its energy, human. You are both valuable now." Ethan looked around for a weapon, but there was nothing except a fallen branch near his feet. He stepped slightly forward. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Lyra. The second hunter raised his hand, a faint blue light forming around his palm. "Do not resist," he said in a flat tone, before Ethan could react. Lyra shouted something in her language, and the air around them exploded in light. The force threw the hunters backward. The SUV flipped, crashing into the side of the bridge. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run!" They sprinted across the bridge as metal and fire erupted behind them. They ran until their lungs burned, stopping only when they reached a cave hidden by thick vines. Ethan dropped to the ground, gasping for air. You just blew them up," he said. She shook her head. "Not enough. They will heal. The shells repair themselves." He stared at her. "You're telling me they can't die?" She looked away. "Not easily, not by your world's weapons. Inside the cave." Ethan found old camping gear left behind by hikers. He lit a small fire and handed her a blanket. "We'll rest here," he said. She sat close to the fire, her eyes reflecting its light. "You should leave me," she said quietly. "If you stay, they will find you again." He looked at her, his face serious. "I'm not leaving." "Not now." For a moment neither spoke. The crackling fire filled the silence. Then Lyra said softly, "You don't understand what happens to humans who link with my kind. The energy changes your body. It makes you stronger but unstable. Your system will collapse if I don't fix it, Ethan frowned. You mean I'm dying? She hesitated slowly. Yes, Ethan laughed bitterly. That's just great. I save someone and end up glowing from the inside. She reached out, touching his hand gently. I can still save you, but we must reach your cabin before nightfall tomorrow. He nodded. Determination replacing fear. Then we'll make it. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every sound echoed in his head. He watched the fire die slowly, his thoughts spinning. He remembered the strange power that flowed through him when she touched him the first time. Machines reacting to his presence, his phone sparking, even his truck starting without a key. It wasn't just coincidence. Something inside him had changed. He turned to Lyra, who was sleeping peacefully beside the fire. Her silver hair glowed faintly, and for a second, he saw faint symbols flicker across her skin, like a map written in light. He whispered, "Who are you really, Lyra?" Just as he closed his eyes, a faint hum filled the air. He sat up quickly. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Lyra's eyes opened, fear flashing in them. "They found us again," she said. Grabbing his arm, the cave walls began to vibrate. Dust falling from the ceiling. A blue light glowed at the entrance. Ethan's pulse raced. "We can't fight in here," he said. She nodded. "Then we run again." They rushed out into the forest, the light behind them growing stronger. Ethan turned once and saw shapes emerging, dark silhouettes with glowing amber eyes moving like shadows. Lyra raised her hand and the ground trembled. Trees bent as if pushed by invisible wind. "Go!" she shouted. "I'll slow them down!" Ethan refused. "Not without you." He grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. The two ran through the trees until they reached the river again. The bridge behind them collapsed in flames. They stopped, breathing hard, watching as fire lit up the forest. Lyra looked at him, her face pale. "They will not stop. Not until one of us is gone." Ethan stared at the burning bridge and said quietly, "Then we'll make sure it's them." The night wind howled through the trees, and for the first time, Ethan didn't feel like just a man anymore. Something deep inside him was awakening, something powerful and dangerous. The sun rose behind the mountains, spilling light over the smoking forest. Ethan and Lyra had spent the night hiding under a ridge near the river. The air was cold and heavy with the smell of ash. Ethan's body ached, but it wasn't just from running. His skin tingled, as if something electric was moving under it. His reflection in the water showed faint glowing lines crawling across his arms. "Lyra," he whispered, shaking her shoulder. "It's happening again." She opened her eyes. Still weak, and when she saw his arms, her face went pale. "The link is growing stronger," she said quietly. "You're absorbing the core energy faster than I thought." Ethan looked at his hands, light pulsing faintly from under his skin. "Can you stop it?" he asked. "I can't walk around like a human light bulb." She sighed. "I can try, but we need a power source to stabilize it, something that can carry the surge away." He frowned. "Like what?" She looked toward the mountains. "Your cabin. The old generator there, it can work." They started walking again, keeping to the tree shadows. Avoiding open ground, the forest was silent. No animals, no wind, only distant echoes of metal moving somewhere far away. Ethan spoke quietly. "Lyra, you said those hunters use human shells, right?" She nodded. "Yes, they take what they need to blend in." He swallowed. "Then how do we know we haven't already passed one?" She looked at him seriously. "You will feel them before you see them. The link will warn you." Ethan didn't answer, but his heart felt heavier. They kept walking until the trees thinned, revealing the dirt road that led to his cabin. It sat alone on a hill surrounded by tall pines. He exhaled. "We made it." As they climbed the hill, Lyra stopped suddenly, her eyes narrowing. "Something is wrong." Ethan froze. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head. "The air hums differently." "They've been here." Ethan's chest tightened. He ran to the cabin door and pushed it open. The inside was wrecked. Drawers pulled out, walls marked with strange black symbols. It looked like someone had searched every inch. Lyra stepped in carefully. "They tracked us before," she whispered. "But something else was here too." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "Great. Now we've got mystery visitors." He went to the generator room at the back. It was old but still intact. "If this thing works, can it help?" he asked. Lyra examined the wires with glowing eyes. "It might," she said. "But it will be dangerous for both of us," he nodded. At this point, danger's kind of normal. She gave him a faint smile. "You humans are strange. You keep joking when death breathes beside you." He shrugged. "Guess we just like making death uncomfortable." They worked together, connecting cables and clearing debris. Lyra stood in the center of the room. Placing her hands on two metal rods, energy flickered around her, lighting up the dark. "When I start, you must not move," she warned. "If you break contact, the surge could destroy everything here." Ethan nodded. "Got it." The generator hummed to life, the air vibrating. Lyra closed her eyes, her skin glowing bright silver. Ethan felt a rush of heat through his chest, pain and light mixing until his vision blurred. He gritted his teeth. "It's burning!" he shouted. She didn't answer. Her hair floated as if underwater, light spilling from her fingertips into the wires. The floor trembled, the cabin's lights flickering wildly. Then suddenly everything went dark. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was lying on the floor, smoke rising from the cables. Lyra knelt beside him, her face pale. "You're alive," she said softly. But the link changed again. He sat up slowly. "Changed how?" She hesitated. "It no longer hurts you, but now it connects us completely. I can feel what you feel." Ethan blinked. "Wait, you mean like you're in my head?" She nodded slightly. "Yes, but it also means if one of us dies, the link will collapse and kill the other." He stared at her. "That's a terrible design," she smiled faintly. "It was never meant for humans." Before he could respond, the cabin's window shattered. Ethan ducked as glass flew across the room. A voice echoed outside, calm and mechanical. "Lyra of the Ardent Worlds, surrender the core, or both vessels will be terminated." Ethan's blood ran cold. He peeked through the crack and saw 4 hunters standing by the trees, their armor glinting in the sunlight. "They found us again," he whispered. Lyra stood, her eyes glowing bright. "They won't take me alive." Ethan grabbed her arm. "We can't fight 4 of them." She looked at him. "We don't have to win, we just have to survive." She raised her hands, and the ground around the cabin rippled with energy. The hunters opened fire, blue plasma cutting through the walls. Ethan ducked, shouting, "Now would be a great time for one of those alien tricks." She turned, light bursting from her hands, sending shockwaves that threw the attackers backward. Ethan grabbed a wrench and hit one that broke through the door. The man's skin tore away, revealing a metallic creature underneath. "You weren't kidding about the skins." Ethan yelled. He swung again, sparks flying. Lyra screamed as another hunter grabbed her from behind. Energy crackled between them. Ethan felt it too, the pain, the fear. It surged through the link. He shouted and lunged forward, tackling the creature. His hands glowed bright blue. And when he touched the hunter's chest, its armor melted. The creature screamed, collapsing into dust. Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard. What did I just do?" Lyra looked at him with awe. "You used the core's energy," she said. "You're learning fast." But there was no time to celebrate. The last hunter stepped into the doorway, holding a strange weapon. Its voice was low. "You cannot win, human. Your body will burn." Ethan stepped forward. Anger replacing fear. "Maybe, but you're going first." He reached out, his hands glowing like fire. The weapon discharged, but the blast bent midair and vanished. Ethan's energy flared, wrapping the creature in light until it exploded into ashes. When the smoke cleared, Ethan fell to his knees. Exhausted, Lyra rushed to him. "You're pushing too hard," she said. "You can't control it yet." He looked at her weakly. "I think I just saved us, didn't I?" She smiled, tears glinting in her eyes. "You did, but it cost you." He felt the world spinning around him. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Lyra holding him close, whispering, "Rest, Ethan, because the worst is yet to come." Outside, the air shimmered where the hunters had fallen. Their armor turned to dust, but their voices lingered faintly in the wind, sending one last message to something far above the clouds. Subject located, link confirmed. Initiate recovery fleet. The sky darkened as distant thunder rolled, not from a storm, but from engines far beyond Earth's skies. Ethan woke to the sound of rain tapping against the roof. The cabin was dim, the air thick with smoke and the faint hum of burnt circuits. He blinked slowly, trying to remember what had happened. His body ached, his arms still faintly glowing under the skin. Lyra sat beside him, her silver eyes watching quietly. "You've been out for 6 hours," she said softly. "Your body is changing faster now," Ethan groaned, sitting up. "Feels like I got hit by a truck." She handed him a cup of water. "You almost did," she said with a faint smile. He took the cup and sipped, staring at the broken walls and black scorch marks around them. "So we killed them all?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, but their signal reached space before they died." Ethan froze. "You mean more are coming?" She looked down, her voice low. "Not just hunters this time, a fleet." He stood quickly. "You're saying ships? Actual alien ships?" She nodded again. "They will arrive soon, and when they do, this world will not be safe anymore." He paced the floor, running his hands through his hair. "You said you could stop the link, right? Can't we just end it and run?" Lyra looked away. "It's too late for that. The link has merged our energy. If they find you, they'll find me. If they take either of us, they will get the core's code." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then what are we supposed to do? Just wait for them to burn the planet?" She met his eyes. "No, we fight. But we fight smart." He shook his head, laughing bitterly. "You say that like I'm some kind of soldier. I fix cars. I don't fight aliens." Lyra's expression softened. "The core chose you for a reason. Ethan, it could have killed you, but it didn't. That means something." Ethan looked at his glowing hands. "Yeah, means I'm a walking battery about to explode." She smiled slightly. "Or a weapon that doesn't know it's awake yet." A loud crack of thunder shook the cabin, but there was no lightning. They both looked outside. The sky wasn't grey anymore. It was red, streaked with strange lights moving like veins. Ethan whispered, "That's not thunder, is it?" Lyra's face went pale. "No, that's them breaking through the upper atmosphere." The ground trembled slightly, and in the distance, the faint outline of a ship appeared through the clouds. Massive and silent. "How long do we have?" he asked. She closed her eyes. Hours, maybe less. Ethan grabbed his backpack and started throwing in supplies, tools, water, batteries. "We can't stay here. They'll find this place in seconds," Lyra stood. "Then we go to the old power dam north of here. It's strong and made of iron and stone. The energy fields can hide us for a while." Ethan nodded. "Then we move now." They left the cabin and began their climb toward the northern cliffs. The rain had stopped, but the air buzzed with electricity. In the distance, faint beams of light scanned the forest. Searching, the world felt alive with danger. Ethan muttered, "Feels like the planet's holding its breath." Lyra walked beside him silently, her steps light even on wet ground. By the time they reached the edge of the dam, night had fallen again. The sky glowed with strange patterns, blue and red flashing like storms that never ended. The dam was old but huge, built of stone and rusted steel. It stretched across the valley like a sleeping giant. Ethan whistled quietly. "Well, at least it's big enough to hide an alien and her glowing mechanic friend." Lyra gave a small laugh. "It will do for now." They entered through a broken gate and made their way into the main control room. Everything smelled of oil and dust. Ethan began checking the old machines. "If we can get power running again, maybe I can overload something. Give us a distraction if they come." Lyra watched him curiously. "You think like a soldier now?" He shrugged. "Guess panic makes me creative." As he worked, she stood at the window watching the sky. "They won't stop at us," she said quietly. "When they come, they'll scan every city, every human, until they find traces of the core's energy." Ethan looked up. "Then maybe it's time to show them humans aren't as weak as they think." She turned to him. "Surprised? You can't fight their fleet." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not all of it, but I can make them regret coming for us." Suddenly, the room filled with a deep vibration. The lights flickered, and a beam of blue light shot through the ceiling, cutting across the valley. Lyra gasped. "They've locked on." Ethan ran to the console, pressing buttons until sparks flew. "We can use the dam's grid to overload their scanners, maybe blind them." She nodded quickly. "Do it!" He connected the cables, his hands glowing brighter as the machines came to life. The old turbines groaned. Spinning after years of silence, Lyra stepped closer. Placing her hands on the metal supports, her energy flowed into the system, the entire dam humming like a living creature. "More power!" Ethan shouted. "We have to push it!" She nodded, but her face twisted in pain. "If I give too much, it could kill me." Ethan turned to her, his eyes fierce. "Then don't, I'll do it." He placed his hands on the control panel, and the metal burned under his touch. Light spread through the wires, turning the dam into a beacon. The beam from the sky flickered, then shattered, sending a shockwave across the valley. The ground shook violently. Ethan screamed as energy tore through his body. Lyra tried to pull him away, but he wouldn't move. "Ethan, stop, you'll die!" she cried. With one final burst, the light exploded outward. Blinding and silent, the ships above wavered, their scanners collapsing into static. Then the power cut out completely. The dam fell silent again. Smoke filled the air, and Ethan collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily. Lyra rushed to him, her hands shaking. "Ethan, talk to me!" He looked up, weak but smiling. "Did it work?" She nodded, tears forming. "Yes, they can't see us now." He leaned against the wall, exhaustion pulling at his body. "Good, because I don't think I can do that again." Lyra smiled through her tears. "You are stubborn," he chuckled. "You're one to talk." They sat in the quiet, the faint hum of the dam echoing around them. Then far above, a voice crackled faintly through the air, not from machines but inside their heads. "Link confirmed, primary vessel rerouting. Containment in progress." Lyra froze. "They found another way." Ethan clenched his fists, his glow flickering again. "Then I guess we make our stand here." She looked at him with both fear and admiration. "You can't fight them all," he met her gaze. "Watch me." Outside, the clouds opened again, revealing dozens of lights descending slowly through the atmosphere. The night sky filled with the sound of engines and thunder. The war for Earth was no longer coming. It had already begun. And standing beneath it all was one human and one alien, ready to face the impossible together. The dam shook as thunder rolled across the valley. The sky above glowed with fire and light as alien ships broke through the clouds. Enormous and silent, Ethan stood at the shattered window, his hands trembling as he watched beams of blue light sweep across the land. "Searching for them. They're here," he whispered. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes glowing softly. "The Dominion doesn't send fleets for one person," she said. "They came for the core, and now for you." Ethan turned toward her, his voice steady but low. "Then they're not leaving with either." Outside, the rain started again, heavy and cold. The wind carried strange static, and the dam's walls hummed as if alive. Ethan grabbed the wrench from the table and forced a laugh. "Guess this is it. Earth's first alien war, 2 against an army." Lyra smiled faintly. "You joke, but you know the truth. The link made you part of something much greater." He looked down at his glowing hands. "Feels like being plugged into a storm," she nodded. "Then use the storm." The first ship descended lower, its shadow swallowing the valley. Metal tendrils reached down, piercing the ground, sending vibrations through the earth. Ethan stumbled, grabbing the railing. "What are they doing?" Lyra's face turned grim. "Anchoring. They're opening a portal to pull the core's energy out of us." He frowned. "How do we stop it?" She looked into his eyes. "We destroy the core itself." Ethan blinked. "Wait, the thing inside you?" She nodded. "It's the only way. If they take it, they will tear this planet apart." He shook his head. "No way. If we destroy it, you'll die." She smiled sadly. "And if we don't, billions will die, including you." Before he could argue, the ceiling cracked open as a beam of blue light cut through the roof. 3 armored figures dropped through it, landing silently on the floor. Their faces were hidden behind masks of metal and glass. The leader's voice echoed coldly. "Surrender the core, vessel." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes glowing brighter. "Come take it," she said. The hunters raised their weapons, but before they could fire, Ethan lifted his hand. The air rippled, and the entire dam groaned. The turbines behind him roared to life, metal screaming as energy surged through the walls. Blue lightning exploded from his body, striking the hunters. Two were thrown back instantly, their armor burning. The leader staggered, but aimed his weapon again. Lyra shouted, "Ethan, stop! You can't control it." He gritted his teeth. "Then I'll learn fast." The hunter fired, the bolt hitting Ethan in the chest. He stumbled but didn't fall. His body absorbed the energy, and his veins glowed like molten fire. He looked at his hands in shock. "It doesn't hurt anymore," Lyra's eyes widened. "Because the core has fully bonded with you." The leader tilted his head. "Then you are the new vessel," it said. "Eliminate the old one." Ethan stepped in front of Lyra. "You'll have to go through me first," the hunter lunged. But Ethan caught the strike with his bare hand. The metal melted at his touch. He shoved the creature backward, sending it crashing into the wall. The dam rumbled again, cracks spreading along the floor. Lyra cried out, "Ethan! The structure won't hold. We have to leave." He turned to her, breathing hard. "Go, I'll hold them off." She shook her head fiercely. "No, not again. We fight together." They ran toward the lower levels, alarms blaring as the old turbines spun faster. The whole dam was turning into one giant power source. Lyra stopped at the main console, typing commands into the ancient controls. "If I overload the turbines, it'll create a chain reaction," she said. "The explosion will destroy the core and the ships above." Ethan's eyes went wide. "You'll die too." She looked at him with calm sadness. "You can survive it. You are half of the core now." He grabbed her hand, his voice breaking. "There has to be another way." "We'll find it together," she smiled. "You already have. You gave me something I never had before, hope." Before he could reply, another beam tore through the wall. The last surviving hunter stepped through, its armor cracked but glowing red. "And this vessel," it commanded. Lyra turned, lifting her hands. "Together," she whispered. The two focused their energy. Light swirling around them, the hunter charged. Firing blast after blast, the floor shattered. But Ethan caught the final strike and hurled it back. The explosion threw them all across the room. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Ethan struggled to his feet, his body glowing like fire. Lyra stood weakly beside him, blood running down her arm. "It's time," she said softly. She placed her hand on his chest, and he felt the core's heartbeat inside him. "I can move it to you," she said. "It will live on through you. You will protect what comes next." He shook his head. "I can't do this without you." She smiled sadly. "Yes, you can." Energy poured from her into him, light bursting through the cracks in the dam. "Lyra, stop!" he shouted. But she didn't. The light grew until the entire structure glowed like a rising sun. The ships above turned their weapons downward, but it was too late. The core erupted, sending a massive wave of energy into the sky. The beam pierced through the clouds, tearing the air open like fire in the heavens. When the light faded, the ships were gone, the sky calm again. The dam was silent except for falling rain. Ethan lay among the ruins, smoke rising from his skin. "Lyra," he whispered weakly, but she didn't answer. Only the faint glow of her necklace remained beside him. He clutched it tightly, tears mixing with the rain. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved them all." Days later, the world woke to strange news. Satellites picked up the massive burst, but found no trace of the ships. The valley was declared a meteor impact zone, and the government sealed it off. But at night, people in nearby towns swore they saw blue light glowing faintly in the clouds. Ethan walked alone through the forest, his eyes no longer human, but glowing faintly silver. Machines around him seemed to whisper, birds and trees bent slightly as he passed. He looked up at the stars and said quietly, "You're not gone, Lyra. You're still here." Then he disappeared into the mist, leaving behind only the faint hum of energy and a promise carried on the wind. A promise that Earth would never again be helpless under alien skies. Because one man now carried the light of a dying world within him, and he was ready for whatever came next.